Welcome back, folks. Hopefully you were all able to reconnect here, as we did have an untimely stream DC starting the local. My apologies, but alas, we are in the game here. Cleave versus Compass Gaming. It was a long break, but we're ready to rock and Roni. I'm Zayori, joined once again by Blaze. Blaze, good buddy. I hope you stayed awake during that snoozer there.
Yeah, if I can make it through all these various games with like 4 hours of sleep, getting a nap in between shouldn't be too detrimental
A
to
little
my
power
casting, I'm sure.
snour
But
there.
yeah, but no, this would be a pretty fun one. I mean, obviously we're not looking at the top tier of teams, but we're looking for some good old down and dirty Dota, a little bit of back and forth team fighting,
Oh, yeah.
bloodbaths. That'll be fun.
You know what I like to say, Blaze? Don't hate, appreciate. These guys are giving us a show, and it's going to be good stuff, I hope. Cleave, actually, let's take a look at the standings. Let's see how these teams are doing. Let's pop open the grid. This is not updated based on KPG's win earlier today, but they are sitting at, where are they? I actually don't even see them in here. Am I blind? Oh, they're dead last. Oh, God. They were 0-6. KPG took a win today, so that's good news for them. And Cleave, yep, they're 1-4. So this is kind of the battle of the bottom, but there are some bragging rights on the line here, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, they performed certainly better in their most recent game than they have throughout the tournament so far that I've seen. Some may chalk that up to their opponents, some may chalk that up to the stand-in, but no matter the case, Compass, they definitely prove that they have some chops here. They can pull out some interesting strats like the sniper and make them work for them. And of course, the key decision-making at those critical times, the activity and the pressure they put on the Enigma is one that I would highlight. So we'll see if they can keep that momentum up against Cleave. Obviously, a team with a completely different playstyle. They don't like to really rely on greed to get them through it. They want to go ahead and just get some stable lanes, get some really awesome pickoffs, and let the kills flow.
Yep. And
10
Cleave will,
seconds remaining.
well, do things a little differently. They pick up the Razor, pretty in line with this meta,
5
but
seconds
they
remaining.
second pick the Priestess of the Moon, old Mirana
Dire
there.
team ban.
And you don't see a lot of teams doing that these days. Some teams are
Radiant
still picking
team
her up
ban.
as kind of a niche pick here in your pocket strats, your aggro tries, what have you, but she's really fallen off in popularity, and she might have high cheekbones, but not a player fan favorite these days.
Yeah, but still a lot of potential. Just one
10
setup stun,
seconds
and you're going to be
remaining.
getting the best early game skill you've ever seen. The arrow is
5 seconds
absolutely immense in
remaining.
turning fights. Just a 5 second stun potential is very scary indeed. I mean, there are ways to deal with
Reserve
it. We've seen
time.
Abaddon and Shadow Demon both picked up to try to deal with it, but I don't know. It's just still going to be very impactful. Spamming it out, even when you miss, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but when you hit, it just has such a high impact. So, like you said, maybe not worth the first phase pickup, but at least it gets us out of the trendy, oh, I have to pick this type mentality.
Yeah, and I do like
Dire
that change of
team
pace,
ban.
though. I worry a little for Cleave that there is something to be said, as we've sort of
Dire
talked about.
team
Once you're this
pick.
far into a patch and the meta has kind of been figured out, more or less, there is something to be said for some heroes are just a little more potent than others. And I hope Cleave have a few tricks up their sleeve. Compass did not ban out scary aggro tri-heroes, so they could do something like Shadow Demon, Wraith King, a lot of other heroes still in the pool available. The Bane is another one that comes to mind. Or they could just be picking up a casual Mirana and throw her in the off lane. They are
10
Radiant side, so
seconds
she would have a
remaining.
slightly easier time and could be an option. But time
5
will tell as
seconds
Compass Gaming
remaining.
now move into their third picks. I think the bans from Cleave make a lot of sense here in the third and fourth slot.
Reserve time.
Earthshaker and Void. Do we really need to explain why they make sense, Blaze?
I don't think so. In this position, they want to be active. They don't want to be screwed over by some very powerful disables, and we'll leave it at that. Plenty of synergy, of course, on Compass's lineup. But I don't know. The Mirana right now is having some difficulty fitting in because the Death Prophet and Skywrath are going to provide a lot of silence. It's going to make it so that she's not really the one to throw on the offlane. She's a bit of a gambit there because level 2, level 3 Skywrath is just going to have tons of kill potential there. So I would have to say she has to be in the number 1 or number 4 position, where she can kind of go support
Four.
into semi carry or just go for the primary
10
farm.
seconds
Yeah,
remaining.
Compass are really thinking about this, though. They settle on the Wisp. Okay, looks like their thoughts were
Radiant
well
team
warranted as
pick.
they will have a little bit of relocate action coming onto the field. I'm always excited to see a Wisp, though. I don't know that we've seen Compass run the EO in this season of Starladder so far, so this is an interesting change of pace for us here.
Yeah, definitely something different. Right now, they don't have any like regenerative properties to combo with it. Like we've been seeing some teams pick up like Omni Knight with Wisp, as well as
10 seconds
other
remaining.
heroes that just have good healing, a mech carrier for sure. And in this case,
5
we
seconds
haven't really get to
remaining.
see that other than the fact that Skywrath very frequently picks up the arcane boots, and somebody
Reserve
obviously is going to have a
time.
mech. So we'll see. Maybe just a active early Urn of Shadows pickup for him, and just trying to find the opportunities to get the kills to get those charges. But as far as a hero overall, it just depends on how you use it. Obviously, there are plenty of various heroes that can work well with him, but the big thing is just getting the movement speed advantage, being able to run your opponents down, and Cleave
Dire
actually
team
going for
pick.
the tiny synergy breaker here. It's a combo breaker pickup. It doesn't really fit for their
Yeah.
lineup, but they want to take it away from Compass. I almost feel like that's unwarranted, especially like if you look back to the stats when it was the Wisp CK era. Wisp versus CK, the Wisp still won like 80% of the games because whenever the CK was picked up, it was to take it away from the Wisp and not to actually work well with the draft as a whole. So,
10 seconds
Yeah.
remaining.
yeah, it's a strategy, all right, but I'm not sure if it's the right one.
Yeah, I completely
5
agree. And right
seconds
now, I mean,
remaining.
Wisp Tiny is still a classic duo, but there are a lot of other heroes that Wisp pairs very nicely with. I mean, Ursa is still in the pool.
Radiant
Sven is another
team
one. You
pick.
mentioned the Omni Knight, which the Denial Esports team has been running recently. I mean, even something like a Gyrocopter, a Storm Spirit, there's all sorts of crazy position
Morphling.
ones that normally you wouldn't think of, but when paired with the Wisp, open up a ton of possibilities. And unless you're really confident or there's a long history of this team picking that duo, I feel like Cleave have already drafted themselves into a little bit of a corner
10
here, and it makes
seconds
me wonder how
remaining.
they'll run the Tiny. They could still put him in the position one, support Mirana,
5
throw
seconds
Razor into the mid
remaining.
lane, and then pick up an off laner here and another support, and it could still work out. But so far,
Reserve time.
not a huge amount of synergy across these three heroes.
Yeah, maybe Tiny could have gone for like a toss gun where he
10
throws somebody in
seconds
to
remaining.
deliver a very painful stun, but Center
5
Warner is actually going
seconds
to be picked up by
remaining.
Compass. Slaughter is not really
Dire
as
team
popular
ban.
as you would hope for this kind of thing. If you could actually like toss Slaughter in for a Slithering Crush and follow that up with an arrow, that'd be really cool to see, especially against these low armor heroes and the fact that he does large amounts of physical damage. But they're going to go for something simpler, just a Vengeful Spirit,
10
tossing her a little
seconds
ball around here.
remaining.
The Magic Missile going to be a good initiation tool, and certainly going to make it
5
so that
seconds
all these
remaining.
right-click oriented heroes are going to be doing a lot of damage. But uh, I don't know how long you're going to be able to right-click against Exorcism, Magic
Radiant
Burst damage,
team
Centaur
ban.
with a Blink, trying to initiate, and whoever they pick up to pair with the Wisp.
Yeah, and they'll ban out the Chaos Knight. I feel
Dire
like
team
Cleave are just
pick.
caught up in the meta that was popular a few patches ago. CK Wisp is really fallen off in popularity. I mean, maybe Compass were going to go for it. It's still an okay pairing, but it's just that's so last year, man. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have still have to ban out a carry hero that goes with Wisp, so you
Yeah.
could technically say that about the other four bans that they could look into. But in the end,
10
Compass won't be
seconds
fully
remaining.
thwarted. They'll think about it, but they will be able to pick up a hero that works well. And the Morphling, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is
Radiant
a
team
great
pick.
one. We saw it was Secret Team that ran it in a duo mid role set where Hiroki was able to go for really aggressive plays, and they just absolutely dominated. I think they were like 12-1 by like the 15, 20-minute mark, somewhere in there. So it was just absolutely crazy. We'll see if Cleave can answer it, but for now,
Dire
I have to
team
give
pick.
my
Naga
draft
sold.
favoritism towards the Wisp team.
So I guess they'll go aggro try here, and will be a either safe lane Naga or safe lane Razor. They'll be in the mid and safe lane, however they see it working best. This feels like a pretty greedy last pick. I'm having trouble remembering the positions of Cleave off the top of my head. Is Roger generally a farmer or a support?
Solo usually, so
Usually
I've
solo. Okay, so it is a farming Naga of some sort.
yeah,
This just
it's
feels
best I can
so
tell.
greedy. A Tiny, a Naga, and a Razor. All three of those heroes just need so much farm, and it's one of those kind of drafts where who's creating space for who, since they all need the space, you know?
Yeah, I guess, but if they get like an early first blood with the Vengeful Spirit plus Mirana combo, then they can certainly disrupt whatever's going up on the top lane. And I guess Tiny will be able to hold his own mid versus the Death Prophet, assuming it is DP going there instead of the duo. I don't know. I think the Tiny is the only thing that stands out to me. Like I'm okay with the Naga with the other three, but
Hmm.
the Tiny is just a thumb that sticks out, and
Yeah.
the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. I don't know. He does have the Starladder set though. He does have the Starladder
Whoa!
stats.
All right, let's get a zoom in here. Let's get a close up. I thought he was. I was looking at him like I thought his mouth looked a little funny. The Scarlet Oak, the summit of the Scarlet Quandary. Oh, the Scarlet Quandary. The slab. Garnet. I love all the rock terms. You know, I didn't know that craggy was like a real word until I started like playing Dota. It just felt like such a made-up word, and apparently craggy is a real adjective. Look at all these craggy boulders over here. That's a real thing that you could say.
I suppose so. Not a natural conversation.
But dictionary-wise, it fits. I'm not sure that I've actually seen this tiny set in action.
Nope. And I think it looks even cooler as it expands. Like right now, it's just the baseline. You think of Tiny, he's just a little dude rolling around. But when he starts getting points in his ultimate, each model is unique and it looks badass.
All right, I'm into that. His face he's got a really big jaw though. I have to admit, it looks like he's got like this huge overbite. It's kind of
It's like a kid growing up. The skull doesn't grow that much. It's everything else that goes with it.
That's actually pretty cool. If his face moves out, like it starts out and his teeth are all jacked up, and he's got this huge overbite, or I guess it's an underbite actually, and then and then as he matures, he gets braces, and his teeth slowly get better as his jaw straightens out. I hope that's what happens. We'll have to zoom in once he levels up a bit. It's good stuff. It is a pretty cool looking set, though, I have to admit. But yeah, I think we're both in agreement here. I really favor this KPG draft.
Yeah, I mean, I see potential either way, but the KPG just bottom line, the Morphling, the Wisp just have to have played this a few dozen times, and they'll have the experience enough to be able to make it work for them more so. Also, an arrow isn't really threatening against KPG nearly as much with the Morphling and with the Wisp. You can strength morph during when you're getting hit by the arrow as well. The Wisp will have defensive relocates. If somebody else gets hit by it, if they're just wondering, like if you, generally speaking, if you're trying to push and Death Prophet gets hit by a 5-second arrow and Cleave is ready to jump in, that would be the end of your entire team fight. That'd be the end of your Death Prophet. You'd be screwed. Well, the defensive relocate, you can disengage, at worst sack the Wisp, and you can reset with all your cooldowns. So, honestly, I think this is a great hero in a lot of different ways, but it really just depends on how the Wisp uses him.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think we've seen Gotham actually use the Wisp, so it should be fascinating here. Also, KPG rocking the double silence, the DP, and PSM will once again be on the Skyrath. So, with the double silence, that just makes things even more difficult. A hero like Naga, who would normally have that reset tool in the Song of the Siren, there are now 2 ways to prevent her from getting that off and maybe finishing her off. And same thing with Tiny early on. He really relies on the magic damage from the Avalanche Toss combo in the early levels to get a little momentum and be a real threat. And if you silence him before he gets that Ags out, the punch to the face is not quite so scary.
They'll just get 5 Manta Styles, no problem. Each one can pick up their own. We've seen it.
Yeah. Yep. Craggy Query on the Quandary. Jesus.
Nice. But the last pick here, for those that might have forgotten, is the Centaur Warrunner, and adding in the Stampede on top of everything is going to make it difficult to really avoid the threat of the Morphling and the Death Prophet. They can stay on the front line, they can dish out a ton of damage, and as far as just like getting the better positioning on them, they can choose to disengage and engage freely, even chasing down a Mirana if she doesn't have multiple points in her leap. So it's really going to be difficult to maneuver against their opponents. They're going to have to make every single one of their skill uses count. And while I was saying earlier, Mirana's arrows are a high-impact spell that you don't have to worry about missing, I feel like these ones have to be particularly on point. So, I don't know. If you want to go through the rosters real quick, I'm still kind of unfamiliar with the pronunciations of a few of Cleave's players.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to wait to see how the lanes settle down. That's kind of what I'm curious about, is exactly how they'll lane this. So we'll get into it in due time, Sir Blaze. I know you're eager. Here, I'll zoom in onto Roche, and we can check out those. Look at those pearly whites, man. Oh, God. What is Roche supposed to be? Is he based on a mythical creature, or is he just his own thing?
Definitely his own thing. There is some speculation that he was like, if you remember I think it was TI3 Courier, it's a Smeevil. Some people think he was like cursed Smeevil that grew monstrous, but I don't know. I
like that he has swords sticking out of his back. I never really noticed that before.
He's got like little banners and flags and stuff. People have fought the crap out of this guy.
People have messed him up, man. They need to make a Mrs. Roche. He seems pretty lonely in that pit all day. Even beasts like Roshan still need a partner, Blaze.
It's true. It's true.
Lanes are Beauty and the Beast and shit. All right, let's get into this. We've got our 4th game of the day on our hands. One more after this, guys. It will be Alliance versus Album Sheet for our final one coming up right after this Bad Daddy is complete. Looking at the lanes here, we've got Cleave on the Radiant side. Hakan will be off lane playing on the Razor. Roger will be solo mid on the Naga Siren, which puts them in a safe lane try. Stress on Mr. Tiny. Metpum on the support Mirana, and it will be Voxa, the stand-in. I am not familiar with Voxa, but I like it. A nice, strong name, rolls off the tongue. Going to be on the Vengeful Spirit.
Looking over at the side of KPG, we're going to be seeing them go actually on the safe lane with this Wisp and Morphling. So we're going to be seeing Gotham running on the Wisp, PSM, Skywrath, and yeah, supporting up Arts on that Morphling. They should have a pretty good top lane. Afo Ninja, his performance in MVMI wasn't all that impressive to me, but his performance on the Puck last game was pretty solid. So pretty high expectations for him here on the Death Prophet as well. In the solo mid, and of course looking down at Centaur, down bottom, Gorek, the drafter, and he's just going to be trying to hold his own. Boots first should be plenty to keep him away from arrows and magic missiles alike.
Yes. Yes, they should. So, all right, initial lanes will come down, and yeah, Arts should have no problemo at all, and I doubt Razor will really find much for him. We don't really see off-lane Razor that often. And for good reason. Even on the Radiant side where it's a little bit easier, still will be difficult for him as PSM did get that Arcane Bolt level 1, so already harassing him out very aggressively as we can see here. Gorek having a slightly better time with a little bit of better lane control, but
maybe
not. By a
not.
missile, arrow, he'll walk right into it, and this could very well be your first blood. And Tiny coming in, there's your avalanche, and Stress will draw the first blood as Cleave live up to their name and Cleave down the Centaur War Runner.
Yeah, we'll see the Tiny moving in towards an early Aghanim's, which will make their name even more appropriate, but I'm curious if he actually goes for the Midas off that first blood gold first. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can build it, but the bottom line is you're going to want phase boots or treads to stay on top of target. I actually think without Wisp, you probably need phase because you don't get that bonus movement speed. But otherwise, yeah, you're going to be looking towards Aghanims to enhance your farm, maybe a Midas to get it there more consistently. I don't know. They, like you said, are kind of greedy because they do have this offlane Razor who's not going to get a lot, and they are very reliant on Roger. Looks like there's at least a Steam breakdown on my end, just not in the game, just on Steam, so I'm not sure if that's the pause reason or if it's just a mouse issue, but it looks like it's just the peripherals that needed to be taken care of, and we are back underway.
Yep. Sorry, I had to tab out for a second there. But yeah, it looks like it will be a quick one, and hopefully we can actually get into this game here. Yeah, the Midas on Tiny is an interesting one. Generally speaking, I feel like the Ags is just a better way to go if he can rush it and get it out. But the Midas does really accelerate his farm. And Tiny's one of those heroes that really benefits from the attack speed. So it's not only a farm accelerator, but he really just gets some extra damage from it more so than a lot of other heroes. So, not a bad choice, but it does delay the Ags, and it's just more time that he's spending not online in the mid lane. Death Prophet gets caught inside of the ensnare, and all the stuns to follow up. Cleave off to the aggressive start as they bring down the Death Prophet. It is Vengeful Spirit that gets the kill this time, but good news for Roger as he gets a little space to farm.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, but yeah, he's going to still need a lot of money to rack up to actually move in towards his big items. I mean, I guess just the kind of drum build-up would work here, maybe drum and Aquila, just to get some gradual stats and to help out the team with the ever-important aura. But yeah, they have a tall shopping list for a number of their heroes here. The Razor will have to kind of rebound from his current laning affairs. Like, he's not going to get anything but unreliable gold here from the ticks over time. So that really does mean that these ganks need to keep coming frequently, and we'll actually see them make their rotations up top. Do you think there's actually any potential making the top, going the top way, or should they just rotate towards the mid and try for Death Prophet once again?
I mean, I like the idea of just punishing this Death Prophet so much because she is one of those heroes that doesn't play super well from behind. Sure, she can flash farm, but she is very squishy, and without those early tanky items or movement speed pieces, she is even easier to gank later on. But if they could slow down this tri-lane and shut down the Morphling a little bit, that is good news. I mean, Razor is getting completely boxed out here. So I think I sort of see what they're going for, but this seems a bit ambitious. And I would be confident in saying they'll be lucky to grab a kill here. Without a silence, I don't know what their plan is to burst down this Morphling. I think they simply just don't have the damage. Razor even going unstable current level 1. He will find level 2 and is holding on to the ability. Wisp will tether over the tree line, and Voxa way too far forward. He'll be the first to go down. Got him, almost taking a spill. Hakan trying to dive it, but won't be able to find the kill. And now they'll just go back onto the Razor, and he's stuck in a 3v1 scenario. They may not be able to close this gap. They've got a concussive coming up in 5 seconds, and he is on the run, but they'll continue to pursue. The Morphling will head right back to the lane. There's your concussive. Wisp balls flying through. They do a lot of damage. Arcane Bolt, it's a dead Razor. And your instincts were right, Blaze. It's a bloody disaster as they get turned around upon, and it's a 2-0, the opposite way that Cleave were hoping.
Yeah, there was absolutely no surprise factor. Oh, Stress actually almost gets a kill there. Goes for the toss, and he actually gets Gorek. Nice.
All right.
That's a very close call. But even without even using his stun in the first place, he's able to get the Centaur really low. Oh, he double-edged in that. Centaur actually really sealed his own fate with that double edge, and I guess he just wanted to get some damage out before he retreated, but it cost him.
Yep. So 3-2. It looked like Cleave were just about to run away with it, but that rotation up top just a bit ambitious, and now KPG finding some recovery, and things will level out once again with the golden experience graphs kind of all over the place, drawing us those up and down mountains.
Yeah, one key aspect of that gank up on top was the fact that that Dire Observer ward was in play and saw both the supports where they were. The smoke had dispelled for about 3-4 seconds before they engaged, so there was absolutely no surprise factor there. They were able to respond with cool heads, and the Morphling obviously getting kills, just dramatically increasing his mid-game potential. But all the same, there is one cool... Oh.
Voxa gets engaged upon, and the Centaur will be able to bring him down. He'll lose his Wisp in the mix, and Stress taking heavy damage as well. He is out of regen. And Gorek will head back to lane. Another pause comes out from KPG. But a pretty even trade down there. Support for support. I guess EO gets the last hit, and then he falls. So, yeah. Pretty even, I suppose.
Yep, so we're going to be back underway once again. These pauses are just like little quick bits, but, you know, they're just making sure everything is sorted out on multiple sides. As far as the Tiny's buildup goes, I was talking about the options between Phase and Treads, and he ends up going for neither. This indicates that he's not going to be actually going for a carry Tiny build. He's going to go for what I like to call Assassination Tiny, where maybe he goes for a Blink Dagger, just tries to close the distance, go for the big combo of his spells, and try to create space for the other heroes. The Naga, who obviously will be going for the Radiance build-up, and maybe even the Razor to rubber band back.
Yeah. And down bottom, they'll go in onto Tiny once more. Gorek starts it off. The Wisp pops forward, has his balls online, will smack Tiny in the face with him, and that will secure the kill. Got him, gets it once more, and Stress will take a tumble. And now he just picked up his Arcane Boots, didn't go for that Hand of Midas, and now his farm is looking a little bit more lackluster compared to it was earlier on. Up in the top lane, we'll see some initiation come out. PSM and Arts may be in trouble, but Stampede flies, and the Magic Missile will be rendered pretty ineffective as this gank rotation from Cleave is unsuccessful once more. Tiny, actually, never mind, I take that back. He's still farming pretty well. He's still number 1, number 2 on net worth, despite taking a tumble once more.
Yeah, he did pretty well with the first blood, obviously. That got him off to a good start. And he also got the solo kill on Gorek, you have to remember. So, yeah, the kills definitely account for a lot, even though the CS isn't that substantial. But, yeah, I just feel like right now Cleave aren't making enough of an impact on the top lane. They either should just stop trying so that they can win the other 2 lanes more effectively, or they really need to make sure these arrows are on point, because I feel like the one that we just kind of, well, we didn't witness because it didn't happen, but the one opportunity that they just had was a pretty easy one to land an arrow. There was a very narrow path that the Skywrath could take, and they even nearly had the Vengeful Spirit stun to set it up. Either way, there was just too much hesitation, and I really feel like those opportunities are ones they need to exploit.
Yeah. Now in the mid, the DP will start off with an Invisibility Rune. There's your Silence onto the Naga Siren. Level 7, but hasn't even skilled up the ulti, so the Silence won't be a huge deal. Arrow will connect onto the DP. Enough right clicks to bring her down. PSM will get trapped inside of the Ensnare, and now it's a 2-0, the opposite way KPG was looking for. And Cleave will once again grab a small lead. They keep their Naga alive and get a 2-for. Naga even gets one of the kills, and that'll help boost up Roger's farm that much more.
Yeah, so this is exactly the kind of play they need. It's just opportunities where they can get the mid-range arrows off, that they can kind of surprise the opponents and catch them off guard. And the unfortunate thing is they're not going to get many more opportunities like that during the daytime. The Moonlight Shadow might give them an opening once the Mirana hits 6, but for now, for this 4-minute period, they're just going to be walking through daylight, and that's going to be much more difficult to actually catch KPG off guard. They've got mobility now. They've got phase boots on Death Prophet, the Wisp tethers, movement speed. They should be able to see it coming quick enough to react and get out of the way. We'll see. Obviously, sometimes you have that, what is it, object fixation issue where you see it and you just can't seem to avoid it. But not going to be an issue for Gorak down on bottom.
Yeah, arrow almost hits him, and that could have been an issue if Stress had, if that had connected. I think Stress could have come in and comboed him down. But he will survive by the skin of his teeth there. DP has now picked up phase boots and looking okay in farm. Naga Siren did pick up the early Aquila, so did get some baseline of stats. But looks like he is going to pull up towards that early relic, as most Nagas do. And his farm is good, not great. It's not amazing, but he's doing pretty well. And, of course, being on the Radiant side does give him a little easier access to the jungle. Tiny with the interesting item pickup here. After all this early farm, I'm really surprised to not see Stress go for either farm accelerator. We talked about both the Midas and the Ags, and here he just goes Arcanes into Blink, which is great for mobility, moving around and picking up kills, but I feel like when you commit to the Blink Dagger this early, you really have to get kills to follow it up, or it becomes kind of a wasted investment where the Ags could have just helped you farm that much more quickly to end up at a Blink Dagger anyway.
Yeah, well, this was the build that I mentioned when he picked up the Arcane Boots. The Assassination Tiny build is going to enable him to get kills, essentially like you would see for what used to be a solo mid Tiny. He does obviously played in the safe lane, so he was expected to get more, but at the same time, I think this is a better way to go than trying to get 2 or 3 carries on your team. Because if you had a Tiny just go for like Aghanims, then you'd have to have the Naga Siren go drums to just make up for your lack of early game presence. So then that would delay her Radiance even further, and you just wouldn't get there. It's trying to do too much at once. Rather than just going for this killing Tiny, which creates space, generates income, and in general just gives Naga Siren the better opportunity to actually be the hero she wants to be.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, we did have that question of who's going to be creating space for who, and at some point, someone has to give, even though they have these 3 cores that all want to farm. So I guess it is Tiny who will bite the bullet and now be this mobile space creator. He is just about to be at that max combo damage. He hits level 9, actually about 1 creep kill away, and that will be his 4th point in Avalanche. The other thing about the Ags is it also just makes your toss do more damage. It makes that combo hurt a lot more also. So we'll see. So far, Stress has not been able to find an opening as he's kind of just cruising around back and forth, back and forth. I'm not really sure what he's doing here.
Yeah, he's trying to find an opening here. He wants to unveil the Blink Dagger with a Flourish. Right now, Dire don't have any Observer Wards, but they do see him from high ground to low, so they will ping out. I think they are fully aware, but they lose a stack in the process. Stress just says, okay, can't take your hero, I'll take your farm one way or another, but they might punish him for it.
Yep. There's a Replicate Wisp, and they seem a little suspicious. Razor will start to click it down, and it is always hard to tell which is which until you throw a few more auto attacks, and now they'll probably infer that that Wisp is not really so brave. But
I figure it's the one with the spirits orbiting him a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that is a tell. Good call there. But yeah, that'll the end of the little skirmish, and I like how KPG handled that. They put out the Replicate in the front lines and sort of try to bait them in and just posturing, saying, hey, if you want to commit to this, our Morphling is ready to hop in at a moment's notice, and Cleave will take the memo and be on their merry way. Down bottom, Gorak's getting a lot of space, though, since Tiny's left the lane. Arrow flies through, will be off the mark. Stampede is used to make sure PSM doesn't get caught as Tiny is in pursuit. And Centaur will now be able to pick up his Blink Dagger, as well as do a lot of damage to this Tier 1. So more good news for KPG. And glancing at the graphs, they are still holding on to a very minor lead as some of these core items start coming out.
So this is 100% sticking to the really old build. This is, I'm talking 3 or 4 years ago, Dota 1 build, where you go Blink Dagger, Tiny, and you follow it up with a Dagon. A lot of Tinies can make what is, in my opinion, a mistake by going past Dagon 1 and going Dagon 2, 3, 4, 5, just continuing to just heap on the magical damage there. I prefer the build where you go Blink Dagger and Dagon 1 for the kill potential, but then rotate into a late game build with like an Assault Cross or something of that sort. But yeah, we'll see. Right now, Gorak missing the stun. Oh, that is such a clutch dodge out, but even still, the relocate comes in.
Yeah, Tiny still falls. Moonlight Shadow is deployed, and DP's here with the Exorcism online. They may just try to rotate this into a tower push. But yeah, I agree with you here. It's sort of a similar flavor to the Nature's Prophet build where you rush a Dagon. And basically you use that in the place of a Midas, and instead of passive farming, you shut down the enemy, pick up some kills on the squishy supports, use that gold to transition into a more standard Nature's Prophet build where you can push, rat, carry, whatever it is you need that game. And I 100% agree. I think that's where Tiny needs to go. The Dagon has diminishing returns until you hit level 5. Those are the 2 value levels, level 1 and level 5, and all those interim pieces just don't give you enough for how much you have to invest in it into the mid-game, and that's where Tiny will really start to fall off, especially once BKBs come out. Then that level 3, level 4 Dagon is a little bit less impressive.
Yeah. It's just a really big investment, and he's farming okay to try to pick up, obviously, the Dagon build and get some momentum, but if they just keep on picking him off like this, then he's still going to be very delayed in finding that. Magic damage, it'll force Arts to go for more morph and strength a little bit, just to play on the safe side and not get burst down, but it doesn't change the fact that they're still under a lot of pressure here, and the Death Prophet's just going to be looking to push down tower for tower.
Yeah, that top tier 1 tower, and that's part of the problem with the Blink Dagger on Tiny, and not even just Tiny, but anyone else. It's a huge sunk cost if you get initiated upon. If you're using it to jump on people and catch them off guard, sure, it's a great investment, but if situations like that keep occurring where Centaur can stampede on top of you or they hit you and disable that Blink, it's basically a 2100 gold item that gives you nothing in a situation like that. And makes Tiny a pretty easy kill. You know, if he was on the way to the Ags, had a drum or something like that, maybe he'd be tanky enough to secure or live through that burst. And while I'm thinking about Tiny, I missed this kill on Razor down bottom. That's my bad. But looks like a relocate gank proves successful once more as KPG continue on their momentum, and they will try and finish off this bottom tier 1 tower. Should be pretty easy. In the top lane, got him, gets relocated back, and Stress will finish him off with a stone claw to the face.
So he is leveled up if you want to check out the new and improved cosmetic.
Oh, the Tiny. Let's see here. Oh, wow, look, he's got all the red mixed in. That's kind of neat.
The Garnets.
I like that. Yeah. Beautiful. Very, very classy. Although it kind of looks like blood.
Well, I guess that's an intimidation factor there.
Yeah.
You walk around and see a mountain.
Look at all these blood clots, boys. Well, here we go. Gorek does have a Stampede available, thinking they might get aggressive there, but they see Tiny coming in, and they will just back out. Even though they lose their Wisp, it is still a 2-0 tower count right now, as KPG has still been successful on that front. And Hakan down in the bottom lane, still working on his mech, has the 2 core pieces, but still pretty far off the mark. Moonlight Shadow's deployed, but he just gets dropped without a mech, and without anything else to really help him tank up there. It ends up being a very easy kill. And Moonlight Shadow essentially wasted, used it to try to keep the Razor alive, and obviously that was not a successful endeavor.
Yeah, so they're losing out in a lot of aspects. If they don't start getting more kills for the Tiny, this build is kind of pointless, and if they don't buy enough time for Roger to pick the Radiance, then they're going to have some real issues. They have bought time. I mean, it is 16 minutes, and he's been relatively free farming. That hasn't died once, which is great. Not even forcing the song, but at the same time, they just don't have a great means of defending towers. So these things drop quickly. Tier 2's down. They'll rotate and take an easy Tier 1 mid, and I don't know. It's one of those timings where if you just now got the Radiance right when they're hitting on your Tier 3s, maybe, then you're not feeling all that comfortable trying to deal with it, especially since you still have to deal with the fact that Morphling can replicate the Naga Siren or one of her illusions and steal that Radiance aura back.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen this time and time again in this meta where there's this aggressive kind of death ball strategy that's taken over, and even if Naga gets the early Radiance, as you said, that's her farming tool. The Radiance burn kind of hurts, but you can just jump on her. I mean, she has no survivability aside from that Aquila. Long range arrow will hit, got him. Tiny will commit for the kill, and he finds it, but now he's stuck in the Yules. That'll be a Skywrath ulti to follow up, and Tiny for Wisp, not really the trade that Cleave were hoping for. And now with Tiny dead, KPG will be able to commit a little bit more into this Tier 1 tower. No glyph is available, and I think Cleave will be hard-pressed to mount a defense here. Roger trying to finish off that Tier 1 up top. Gorek will posture with the Stampede, secures the tower kill there in the mid, and will he get the deny? No, Naga gets the better of it, finds the last hit, and will just TP home. Nicely played by Roger, and actually gets the better of Gorek there as he completes his Radiance.
Yeah, that animation cancel there, getting what he needed, but this is going to force Compass Gaming to go for Roshan. They know they can't push anymore without the Aegis. They want to get in on Morphling here.
And their song is down.
Yeah, that's a huge aspect too. Good point. It's the fact that they're not able to really go for any snipes here. There are really no heroes that could possibly do it. So, yeah, this is a guaranteed Roshan for Arts. He's going to get the Aegis, and I've talked about this before, but he's already put 1 point in his strength. He's morphed everything else into Agi. And the way you play this is by having a second life. If you don't have a second life, that's a very risky proposition, but if you have 2 lives with this much damage output, it actually just betters your team's potential to destroy that Naga before her burn does much.
Yes, sir. And now 2,500 gold up on the Morphling. If he wants to shotgun it up, he's not too far off the mark. Still has a little bit of farming to go. Basically, a Ghost Scepter and some change away. But, yeah, this Morphling is pretty darn big already. And another one of these heroes that kind of struggles in this meta because he takes a while to come online. But with a Wisp to keep him safe, all of this tower gold, Arts is not hurting on the economy whatsoever. Death Prophet now, I guess, moving into a Bloodstone, has herself a point booster here to go with that Yules. So she'll just be tanking up and grabbing a little bit more of a snowball-y item as well. Now, it's not all bad for Cleave. They have some item progression of their own. It's a Dagon on the Tiny, and there is now a mech completed on Hakon's Razor. So steps in the right direction for them. Also, the Radiance on Naga still hasn't seen any item progression since then as Roger starts to move the illusions into the jungle. Of course, we'll be looking for BOT's Yasha to get that farming efficiency up to maximum. And from there, just need to tank up and look towards some evasion items. But, smoke rotation. They see Roger, and they are hungry. He has a Song of the Siren available, so they'll have to be on point with the silence. But there's Gorek. Starts it off with the stun, and Skywrath is there to drop the hammer. And, well, not much little Naga can do.
Nice blink forward. Essentially, the relocate is a blink dagger in this case for both Arts and Gotham. He'll just jump back right there, but getting that initiation, closing the distance before there's any chance of Song. That was a really smart movement with the Smoke and Deceit, and it does cost them their tier 2. Like, you would normally want the illusions to radiate down the creep wave, make this an impossible siege, but it's going to go through very quickly, and they just have to commit one more hero to it.
Down bottom, Tiny and Death Prophet will go blow for blow. He takes a Silence, a Crypt Swarm, a Mystic Flare. Stress may take a tumble, turns to the rotation onto the DP, drops the Dagon, but it's not enough. 50 hit points to spare, and Afro Ninja will make it back. Top tower, it's denied by the Razor. All right, cheeky little play there, but still they lose a tower. There's only one outer tower remaining. Centaur gets a deny on the mid-tier 1. And, of course, they find that kill on Tiny. So they're already at the point where this Dagon pickup is here for the Snowball, and they're already too tanky for the Snowball to really commence.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what the weakness of this build is, that you have to be able to get all that damage down really quickly, and not just in a quick fight because it's front-loaded burst damage, but also in the game in general, because otherwise they're just going to get a couple of items that allow them too much tankiness. We might see like a Rod of Atos build on Skywrath next. We obviously are seeing the Death Prophet look towards her Bloodstone, and the Morphling can obviously use his Strength Morph as needed to make sure that that's not going to be an issue for him either.
Yeah, and even Centaur looking towards a pipe. Does he have it already? That is a pipe complete on the Centaur. So Radiance Burn, yep, looks like they've found the amoxicillin to the chlamydia, as it were. That burn's going to be going away.
Well, sure. Yeah, we can look at it that way. There's going to be a lot more push potential behind them now that they don't have to worry about the Radiance threat. And if Rogers throws out illusions at the Morphling, it's going to get replicated each and every time. So it's very difficult to hold this tier 2. They just have to draw the line at high ground, which with this shotgun is going to be difficult too. Though there, I think, is a little bit of method to the madness of Cleave's lineup. If you go for this magic damage assassination Tiny, E-Blade hurts.
Yep, they will bring down the Mirana, and now they'll continue to press forward as Wisp relocates in the Morphling. He'll go aggressive right on the Stress, and DP is there with the ulti. Roger does pop the Song of the Siren. He'll be able to TP out to safety, and Razor will be able to book it back to the base, but an easy 2-for-0 trade. And KPG don't really lose anything except for the DP ultimate. Cooldown deployed, but they'll be able to make good use of it as they move towards the mid. No glyph available, and this tier 2 tower is destined to fall. I doubt KPG will go for the high ground here, but yeah, there's your E-Blade, and the shotgun is officially online.
Yeah. So before that fight broke out, I was mentioning if he actually uses it on a target and the Tiny actually gets his full spell components off, then it should be the Death Morphing pretty quickly, because he's enhancing damage that he receives as well. But that's the risk you take. Still, he has a crazy amount of offensive potential towards the squishier heroes like Mirana and Vengeful Spirit, and he might as well just be farming them at some point in time. For now, though, they're not really going to get too aggressive. Even with the Aegis, they're not unwilling to force the issue on the high ground, just putting a little bit of damage in and then going in retreat.
Yep, they will just back it on up. No reason to take that unnecessary risk now. Of course, if they give Naga enough space, she'll be able to farm up and become scary, but Roger is still a really long ways off that. Just now has his BOTs working towards the Yasha, but still not really too much of a threat and still yet to really tank up. She is also carrying a gem, so now there is basically a target on her head to make her an even more valuable kill. Cleave will group up about the mid lane and rotate into the Dire jungle, but much to their dismay, they'll find that KPG are all grouped up in the bottom.
So how do they deal with this Morphling's Lincolns? Like, that's one big issue, is that you're either going to miss on the toss or the Dagon when it comes down to this Morphling. So do they actually build up something cheap, like a relocate coming through?
Oh, okay. Did they find someone? Nope. Nice split here from Cleave. Stampede's used. Looks like they want Voxa. And will they find him? Yeah, there's your shotgun. And almost enough to bring him down. He gets tossed onto Arts. And Wisp will relocate back. Leaves the Morphling behind. Gets clipped by an arrow. And that will be enough to proc the Aegis. Of course, he's coming right back up, though. And now Moonlight Shadow is deployed. Tiny will get away, but Mirana won't be so lucky. Do they have some detection here? I thought they had a gem, but nope, I guess not. All right, Moonlight Shadow will be enough to keep the Mirana safe and sound.
Yeah, but as I was saying there, like, the Dagon didn't even get used by Stress. He knew it would be blocked by the Lincolns, and they don't really have any great way to negate that. I mean, there are spells out there that are single target, but most of them are pretty short range right now. I would almost say that somebody should just pick up a casual Force Staff, not just for the utility of maneuvering in fights, but also just as a cheap Lincoln's popper.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the best items for popping the Lincolns because of how long the range is, for sure. They'll go into the high ground now. No glyph for another 10 seconds, and this is a big window of opportunity. The Rax could stay standing, but Stress, he hops in and he gets juiced. That's just a big blood puddle coming from that rock. Now Khan stuck in the front lines. Glyph has come up, so they'll have a get-out-of-jail-free card for the Barracks. Mirana also gets taken out by the Ghosts. PSM takes a lot of damage, but will survive. Glyph comes through. And DP, she gets E-bladed up, and oh no, that's not an E-blade, that's an invisibility rune. Oh boy. Now Roger caught inside of a Yule's. They'll hop onto him, and he'll survive as he dodges with the mirror images. Dire's Courier gets picked off. All right, it's a little pick me up for Cleave. A little sloppy play from KPG, but they force two buybacks here. One on the Tiny and one on the Mirana as well. So they'll be happy to back out. They find another kill on the Mirana as Stampede gets used, and it's not over yet. They'll reinitiate. Roger gets dropped. And this could actually be the GG push. KPG were thinking about backing up, but Cleave forced the issue. They do some damage here, but they just don't have enough to secure the kills. Now Tiny falls, and Hakan forced to be repelled. Vengeful Spirit coming back in, throws out a stun on the Replicate. But now the Rax, I think, are destined to fall.
Yeah. Everybody's just too tanky. I mean, the Radiance, the Dagon, they are items that fall off quick if the opposing team does build up on tank items. We see the Vit booster up on Sky for that Atos, the Pipe doing work for Gorak, and yeah, they just can't kill anyone. They can't repel their targets. They obviously pop the Aegis there. They force them back a little bit, but in the end, the Ancient still falls, and their buybacks are worthless.
Yeah, and do we dare look at this gold graph? 20,000 gold and experience in favor of the Dire side. And looking at item progression, Naga, well, now has a Yasha, but still, this is that window again where she's just so squishy. We saw it in that fight with the only HP item she has is that Ring of Aquila, and it just simply isn't enough when you're talking about a Bloodstone, a Pipe, a Lincoln's, and yeah, even PSM looking towards an Atos here, it seems like.
Yeah, so they're going to take Roshan pretty easily, and that should be kind of the nail in the coffin for Cleave. Already being down one lane of Rax. I mean, I guess I shouldn't call this one just yet, because the Naga Siren has huge comeback potential, but she has a lot of ground to make up. Like, she has to be farming both jungles, a lot of lanes, and not getting picked off once more. So it's a tall order, but this Aegis, like we saw the first one, isn't the automatic game breaker. And we'll actually see a relocate come out during the Roche attempt. They're pulling back Gorak to heal up at the fountain. I'm curious about that, but at the same time, they're going to be able to go right back where they need to in a moment's time.
Yeah, so Wisp will tether over to his buddy, channel him a little bit of that extra regeneration there in the well, and double damage on Gorak. He'll just be galloping his way up towards the top lane. So relocate on cooldown here, but I guess they don't really need it to take an engagement up in the top lane. Roger's still in the front lines, and Cleave will just make the retreat as I think they sense the defense coming. And yep, they'll just clear up this creep wave. Tower still out of deny range. and it will stay standing. So a successful Roche and more victories for KPG around the map.
So we're going to be seeing them just farm up, clear out these illusions pretty quickly and efficiently, and eventually we're going to see that GG push, but I guess they're maybe looking for a pick-off. I don't think they want to wait for the fall. Okay, there's your pick for you. The
Yep.
burst combo, that adaptive strike, just absolutely absurd when you're running on max agi.
I don't know anything about shotguns, but that's a pretty serious gauge right there, man.
Yeah, that is
What's
crazy.
like the biggest? What's like the most intense shotgun? What do you got? Like a 20 gauge or something? Is that serious? Is that even
so.
a thing?
I'm about where you are.
Are you a hunter, Blaze?
Idea.
You strike me as the type. I could see you sniping
My
out a
friends
deer.
keep on trying to get me to. I live in Eastern Kentucky, so my friends are all about it and trying to get me involved. But
Come on, man! You got to get that organic free-range meat for the baby coming in. You know, you got to get rid of those preservatives. We were just talking about antibiotics, and that's a good way to avoid them. Uh-oh, here we go. Hakan, he's going to die. He'll get juice to start things off. Pops the mech, but it's not enough. Glyph is not available, and even with this Song of the Siren, they'll get put to sleep, and the tower will just get chunked down as soon as they wake up from their nap. Bottom lane of Rax, and now exposed. The rest of Cleave headed towards the well. The Moonlight Shadow's been deployed, but they're all just so scared. It's like Halloween. Oh, stress. He'll get popped by the 20 gauge once more. Voxa, he gets dropped like he's hot as well, and Cleave are in shambles. They're on their last leg. Tiny Tim about to have his crutch broken, and he'll be put in the grave as KPG press forward. And there it is. The GG well played. KPG looking strong over Team Cleave.
Yeah, really nicely done. The Tiny just didn't work out for them the way they intended to. If he had a little bit more momentum, they might have been able to rock and roll a little bit harder. But in the end, KPG take it away 23-8. The kill momentum totally in their favor, and the Naga not able to outcarry that unfortunate early game.
Yeah, and I think as that game unfolded, it just became kind of obvious the strategy from Cleave was not going to work out. And a very greedy lineup. It was an interesting play from Stress to do something different on the Tiny, and I can appreciate the effort in doing this old school build with the Assassin Tiny, as many have been calling it. But yeah, just not what it used to be, and unfortunately they just never had the space to really pick up those kills. So Arts with a very impressive showing with that Wisp buddy of his, 6-0-8. What a fun game to play a Morphling there, ending with 621 gold per minute. Blaze will have one more game coming up today, and it is Alliance versus Album Sheet. It's scheduled to start in just about 25 minutes, so we'll have another decent break here, and then we'll move into our final match of the day. Should be a good one to wrap things up. I'm Zyori, joined by Blaze remotely at Zyori TV, at Blaze Casting, and of course at Beyond the Summit as well. Thank you so much for joining us here for Starladder EU Day 11 coverage. Stay tuned because we're coming back.